Welcome to another entry into our FJA math notebooks. For this math notebook entry, we will be titling our page, Comparing Quantities in Proportions. You're going to need just this sheet here and obviously scissors, pencil, glue, maybe some pens to color it up, make it nice looking. We're going to start by cutting out on the dotted lines here. You're only going to need one of these. This is kind of a duplicate. So as you can see, I've cut one of these out and I've cut them into flaps. We are going to glue it down right here along the top, and I'm going to place it right there. For this notebook entry, we are basically going to be doing one problem together and doing all the steps along the way. So right down here, I'm going to write my problem, and I'm going to do it in a colorful ink. I'm going to choose purple, I think. I'm going to write it right here. So catch up with me here in a second and copy that problem down. So write down this question and let's read it together. Miss Moyer commutes to work 34 miles one way each day. If she commutes to work 20 days in 1 month, how many total miles will she commute to and from home? So let's start figuring out exactly what we need to figure out. So it looks like the question to me is, and make sure you've written this down, so we need to find the round trip total for 20 days. Miss Moyer, it says, she commutes to work 20 days in 1 month. So it says, how many total miles will she commute to and from home? So in 1 month, it's 20 days, okay? So let's start figuring out what we know. Well, the first thing I know is that she commutes 34 miles one way each day. So let's write that down. One way, her commute is 34 miles. So what does that make her round trip? The round trip meaning both ways. What is that going to be? Well, 68 miles. 34 miles one way, 34 miles the other way, so it's 68 miles. And now, last but not least, go ahead and try to figure it out. If she does a round trip, 68 miles each day, and she does 20 days of commuting, how are we going to figure that out? So I figured it out by multiplying our round trip miles each day, 68, times 20 days. So 68 times 20 is 1,360 miles. Now, how do we do that in terms of ratios? So word ratio, the word ratio. Let's fold this up here and let's really analyze this question. So the first thing is we want to know here, the word ratio, what is being compared? What is being compared? Well, it looks like what's being compared, she commutes 34 miles one way each day. So it looks like what's being compared is miles per day. Or, remember we write that miles per day. The word before the per statement, miles, goes in our numerator. The word after goes in the denominator. So that's our ratio, miles per day. All right, now our known ratio. Okay, so we're comparing miles per day. So got to figure that out here. So what's our known ratio? Well, we happen to know how many miles per day, right? We kind of figured that out right here. She does 34 miles one way. So her round trip was 68 miles in a day. So here, the known ratio So what ratio do we know from the info given? Well, that is, if we're looking at miles per day, we've got 68 miles per 1 day. And then lastly, the unknown ratio. Well, the unknown here is we want to figure out how many miles was Miss Moyer doing in 20 days? So what ratio is unknown? Well, we know she does 68 miles per day, but what we want to know is how many miles she does in 20 days of the month, So I'm going to set up an equivalent ratio here, okay? So I know that I want to figure out for days, I want to know what 20 is, and then I just don't know what this is going to be. So let's give this a variable, a placeholder, a variable. So I'm going to put that in black for now, so we don't know it. We're going to call this M. So we want to know, hey, if she does 68 miles in one day, how many miles does she do in 20 days? And the way that we can figure this out, and I think a lot of you all are probably guessing this already, is let's set this up down here a little bit smaller and do the math. 68 miles per one day is going to equal how many miles per 20 days? And so between those ratios, if we want to get an equivalent fraction, I know that if I multiply one day by 20, so I'm going to multiply by 20 down there. So 1 times 20 is 20. So I'm going to multiply the top by 22. 68 times 20. And as it turns out, I did that down here. 68 times 20 gets me 1,360. So that means M, our variable, equals 1,360. 1,360. And that is how we solve our ratios, comparing quantities with unknown ratios. Nice work.